Welcome home, sir. You need to pay attention to control the time today. With every passing hour, I'll remind you once. Enjoy your time, sir.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Talon Sai and you are watching Sunday GUNDAY. I hope you're all having a great Sunday so far. Today we're taking a look at a safe in every sense of the word. The only thing that's different about this one is that it has some newer technology, including electronics and even Wi-Fi. Now, I already know from personal experience that when I mention a rifle safe with this type of technology, people on the internet tend to lose their minds. There's a lot of people who don't like these things mixed together, and today I'm going to sort of explain the pros and cons of something like this. First, we're going to go through the extensive list of features because this thing is packed full of a ton of different features. And then I'm going to get into the pros and cons and sort of answer some people's questions and concerns about a safe with all of these features. So without further ado, we of course are talking about the Vaultek RS500i. Right off the bat, the RS in RS500i of course does stand for rifle safe. I haven't actually pushed the limit to see how many rifles I can pack into this thing, but I guess we'll cross that bridge today. This thing is a solid steel construction with an anti-pry design. If you notice the corners of this thing, it is all one solid piece of steel. Up front around the door is the only real seam that you will find around this thing, and as we pop it open, you may be able to tell what would make this thing a little bit difficult to pry into. There are solid steel locking bolts all around the door, and there are of course places where you can mount this thing either to the floor from underneath or to a wall from the rear. As far as entry goes, there is not one or two ways to get access to the safe, but there's actually 4 different ways that you can get into this. On the front, you'll notice the illuminated keypad, which has a built-in proximity sensor. That way, as your hand gets close to this, it will light up and recognize that you're there. With the 8 different numbers on the front, there are over 19 million different combos. Just below that, you will find the biometric scanner, which has a 20% larger scanning surface than some previous models. It has a new high-resolution sensor, and it can store up to 20 different unique fingerprints. Then you have an entirely new way to access the safe, which is called the Smart Key Nano. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then of course, to override everything else, you have a good old trusty manual key. That keyhole will always remain covered until you actually need it, and I think it adds to the overall aesthetic of the safe. So let's first talk about the 4 different ways to access this safe. 3 of them are pretty straightforward, and then we have the Smart Nano key, so we'll cover that a little bit later. The first one, of course, being the keypad. As I bring my hand over here, the proximity sensor will realize that I am there. The screen on the front will illuminate, giving you the status of the safe. Of course, you see here that it is locked. And then I can simply enter whatever the code is. Right now, I just have a master code set. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that thing pops right open. You'll notice that there is no handle or anything. The door actually does pop open itself, and right now the safe honestly isn't all that level. It's sitting on some squishy carpet. But when you find a place around your house where this thing can settle in nicely, of course you do have the option to bolt it to the floor or even up against the wall. One advantage you already have with a safe like this is that it is pretty compact, so you could fit it in a closet or next to your door, next to the bed. This thing is not insanely heavy. It's coming in at just under 100 pounds, so I am able to actually lift this thing up and move it by myself. Because I'm able to move this thing by myself, of course, people will say, oh well, an intruder, a robber, a thief could do that as well. You're exactly right, but that is why you end up bolting these things down to the floor. So now for the other methods of entry, if I press the door closed, you'll notice that the safe door is locked and it will give me a green illuminator there to let me know that. Now right down here underneath the keypad, you have that 20% larger biometric scanner. Right now I just have 2 of my fingerprints programmed in there, but like I mentioned, it can store up to 20 different unique fingerprints. I found that my thumb worked the best. You can of course use any of your fingers, but you simply press your thumb on there. Once everything is programmed, access granted, and that door pops open. Now for the third way of entry, this one trumps everything. We are of course talking about the key, which is down here a little bit. So right here in the middle we do have the key door cover. Like I mentioned, it does come with 2 of these different keys, so obviously keep those in a safe location. This is your ticket into the safe if the battery dies or this thing is not plugged into a wall. For some reason, if you cannot gain access to this thing with some of the other methods, this is the end-all be-all right here. This cap and cover right here simply pops off just like that with a twist. A lot of other safes make that a little bit more difficult where you actually have to like pry something out, so that is, in my opinion, a nice touch. And then you simply put the key in, give it a twist, and you have access. Now that we have this open, let's actually talk about what's on the inside. So now that we're inside the RS500i, you can start to get a better feel for the construction. Right here we have a door that is about 2 inches thick, and then this outer rim falls right along this inner rim. Because of that, you're getting pretty good protection when this door is closed up. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get something in there and pry around. If you compare this to another much cheaper Go style of locker, this is not just flimsy sheet metal. These doors don't like rattle around or anything like that. The construction overall is actually really nice. Now the first thing that you may note on the inside of the safe is how modular this thing appears to be with the pegboard design in the rear. The pegboard allows you to mount up a ton of different accessories, and depending on what you are going to do with a safe like this, it seems like the possibilities are pretty much endless. First, I'll start with what the safe actually ships with. So you do have the entire pegboard in the rear, and for the base modules you get 2 different types of accessories. The first one you will find right here on the door, and as you can tell, this is good for holding pistols. If I remove both of these firearms from the door, I will be able to pop this thing off and give you an idea of how this works. So on the back of some of these accessories you will find magnets, so depending on how you have this thing in here, it's not gonna rock around or go anywhere. But to really secure this thing for weight, you have 4 different peg holes with slots in them. So I will mount this up wherever I want it positioned. It will kind of suck itself into place with the magnets. The pegs are through the holes now, and then I can simply push this over and it will lock into place. That is not going anywhere. Of course, you notice that this one is set up for pistols, so I can drop pistols right into the door just like that now. Make sure that everything clears, of course. But since this is the RS or a rifle safe, maybe you don't even want to have handguns in here, and you could actually use these for something a little bit different, like you have right here. So here I have the same accessory setup, but this is obviously running AR magazines now. If I pull both of these out of here and remove the foam, they give you this little plastic insert which basically sits at the bottom of this little drawer right here. For the pistol setup, I do not have that installed. That way the barrels and slides can actually ride out the bottom of there if you have a 17 length slide. But if I want to run the mags, I will simply put that little plastic piece in, drop the foam back in, and of course this thing will hold magazines very nicely now. This thing mounts up the same way in the back here. I'll line up those holes, slide it over, and now that thing is back in place. Now the other accessories that this thing ships with, you may be able to see down on the floor here, but they are these barrel mounts. These are designed almost exactly the same. They have magnets on the rear with the same pegs and slots in them. That way they stay secure in there. So you simply drop these into the peg at whatever position you may need for whatever rifle you are storing in here. You slide the barrel into place and then it will fit nice and snug with the foam that's in here. Now I have this set up in a configuration where it's just easy for me to show you guys what's going on in here, but there are also some other accessories like this right here, which is a barrel mount extension. Say you have a firearm like this, which has a bunch of stuff hanging off the top and the bottom of it, like a big optic. If I put this thing in the back of the safe up against the wall, obviously this stuff is going to be sort of hanging out. A normal barrel mount is not even going to be able to reach that barrel. That is where the extension comes into play. The magnets attract each other, and now you have an extra like 2 inches or so to get that mount out away from the wall. So those are some of the accessories that are included with it, but there's also a lot more that you can do, like add the pegboard to the door as you see right here. This comes in 2 different sections and it gives you a lot more modularity to add different accessories like more barrel mounts or pistols. A really cool one that I like is right back here. It's basically like a spring-loaded AR latch. This basically has jaws that can clamp around the buffer tube of an AR-15. This AR pistol right here is completely loaded out with a suppressor, an optic, a light, and even a fully loaded magazine. This thing is not super light, but these jaws are holding it just fine. Let's just do it real time right now. From the safe being completely locked, I will open it up by scanning my thumb. That door pops open, and I simply pull the rifle out just like that. Now I want to put this thing back in and lock it up. I will simply slide this into the jaws, and there we go. Now for some other features that I find kind of cool on the RS500i, it actually started with installing the battery. As this thing sits right now, it is completely running off of a battery 18650 right up here in the door. When installing that thing, it actually doesn't matter what orientation you put it in. It will detect which is positive and which is negative, and it will work regardless of how you install the battery. Right next to the battery door, you will also find a program button for programming any kind of combo or fingerprints. And then there is also a button for the lights in this safe. When you actually access this safe, there are 3 LED lights on the inside, and it illuminates everything. That way you can see what you're grabbing even in the dark. Now I mentioned 3 different ways to access this safe, but how about the final one that I've been skipping over? That brings us to the Smart Key Nano. So the Smart Key Nano is a very easily hidden remote access button. You could carry it discreetly in your pocket if you so choose, but most people will probably use this almost as a panic button. It comes in this little holder right here. It has some 3M stick on the back, and the actual key actually pops out of there. So I could mount this thing somewhere like underneath my desk, behind a headboard if I'm putting this thing in a bedroom. And as long as the key is within range, when I press this thing, it can give me access to the safe in 2 different ways actually. So right now I have this key set in the progressive or passive mode. So when I press it, it does not do anything to the safe. Other than completely disabling this thing, which you can do through the program and a few different key combinations, this is going to be the safest way to have this button set. So in order to get access to the safe now, what I would have to do is first wake up the display by putting my hand near here. Now if I press the button, it will give me access to the safe. Now if I press the 6 and the program button, it will change the smart key setting to on demand now. So I will lock that safe up, I'll wait until the display times out, and then we'll give this thing another shot. So now imagine you have this thing in your bedroom, right next to your bed, you're asleep at night, you can't see anything, you hear a huge crash downstairs, and no one should be in your house right now. You're obviously going to jump up and go to your safe. While the methods that I already mentioned are pretty quick, this thing in on-demand mode is even a little bit quicker. Like I mentioned, you could have this thing hidden behind your headboard where only you actually know where the key is. That's one thing that I can't stress enough about the on-demand mode with this. You really want to make sure that you are the only one with access to this button. Because when it's in this mode, I'm sleeping, I wake up, I hear a crash, I know I need to access that safe, I'll reach behind me, hit that button, and now I can get access to the safe without even thinking about it. Or maybe you have this safe set up in an office somewhere and you're keeping this button under your desk. You could also pop this thing out and throw it in your pocket if you are moving around. As long as you are within range of the safe, this thing will work from wherever you're at. Alright, now for a little experiment that I have not tried yet. I have 5 different accessory mounts on top here. I'm using the barrel mounts for this one. I want to see how many rifle or rifle-like pistols I can actually fit in this safe. Let's start off with something pretty easy. Here I have a 16.5-inch AR with a suppressor, iron sights, so I don't have an optic hanging off of the top here. An easy way to do this is to simply put the barrel mount in there, put the gun on the floor, and then right about there it should be held in place. Since I think of home defense when I think of a safe like this, I of course am going to opt for a shotgun. Here I have a Remington 870 Tactical. Put that into place right about there, and that is actually a really nice fit. Let's try something a little bit different. Here I have an IWI X95 Tavor. This one is getting a little bit shorter and it does have an optic on there, so I'm actually going to have to use one of the barrel extensions for this. Alright, here's where I'm running into an issue. I'm actually going to have to use a second one of these extensions to make sure that we're clearing that optic, but now looks like the door is not going to close. So that's definitely going to be one thing that makes fitting 5 guns in here a little bit difficult. Let's move on to something different. Starting with this right here, we have a Galil Ace with the barrel mount extension. There you guys see another feature. So the RS500i also has a door alarm. If you accidentally leave this thing open, it will let you know it's loud and it should grab your attention pretty easily. So there's 3 guns. We'll also do a fun little suppressed 22. That one does actually have an optic on it, but it is pretty low profile, so that still will work in there nicely. And then finally, a good old AK-47 We'll use a barrel mount extension for this one to clear that front sight post, and that door will definitely close. I could throw a mag holder up here, drop some AR-15 magazines in there, and it looks like I still have room for pistols if I wanted to put 2 pistols in there. So there you guys have just one setup, 5 rifles, 2 handguns, 2 magazines, and with the space on the door, if you opt for the optional pegboard there, you could even fit more if you like. If you have a few guns with a high offset optic like this, you're not going to be able to fit 5. You can still fit quite a few, it just depends on how you lay this thing out. Of course, for a gun like this, I would have to put it sideways in the safe, and then you're going to be losing just a little bit of capacity there. Now for the last feature that I wanted to hit on with this safe. This one gets a little complex. This is known as the RS500i Wi-Fi enabled. Now immediately, that's where a lot of people on the internet tend to lose their minds. I've seen comments such as,
"I would never put Wi-Fi in my safe, then the government's gonna lock me out of my guns."
The reason I'm laughing about that is because just because this thing has Wi-Fi, it doesn't mean you can actually access the locking mechanism of the safe. If you put this thing on the network in your home, you cannot actually lock or unlock the safe in any way, shape, or form. You can only do that if you are physically here in front of the safe using your fingerprints, the key code, the Smart Key Nano, or of course with the manual key. Now some people will argue that there are hackers out there that will be able to access your safe and know what's inside of it and lock you out. And to that I will say, sure, I know a lot of people who are very smart when it comes to things like that. However, you're not going to be able to do anything with the locking mechanism over the Wi-Fi. If you're really that worried about it, like I mentioned, this key right here overrides everything, so there's really nothing to worry about. So what is the Wi-Fi good for then? I'm glad you asked. This is actually another safety feature, just making this thing even safer than it already is. The Wi-Fi connectivity will allow you to monitor the safe from literally anywhere. You can view live safe data from either an app on a smartphone or from a desktop, and you can even set this thing up to receive smart alerts for critical safe activity. As I've been sitting here messing with the safe for the video, it has been giving me notifications nonstop because I'm moving things around and I'm bumping things. And these are just examples of things that you can expect, like an unknown fingerprint attempt if I had sweaty fingers or something like that and it didn't open immediately. Tampering detection if I am tampering with the lock, entering wrong codes, things like that. And of course the one that it's reading right now, the safe RS500i door has been left open. So it's telling me through the app that this thing has been open for an extended period of time. So when I open the app, I can actually pick which device I am monitoring, and of course this is the only Wi-Fi enabled Vaultek safe that I have right now, so that's the only one that appears. It can tell me if the safe door is open or closed. Again, I can't stress this enough, you're not opening or closing the safe door through Wi-Fi, nothing to worry about there. It will give me the power level. Right now I'm currently at 100% because I did just have this safe plugged into the wall before recording, and for the most part I would recommend mounting this safe in a place where you can keep it fully connected to power. That way you're going to be able to get the most functionality out of the safe. Other than that though, if you are just running with an 18650 battery like this right here, this thing will give you plenty of life. You can pop it out of the safe and charge it if you need to, or you can simply plug the safe in. So of course this thing will also tell you if there is fingerprint or any kind of tampering to the keypad. Maybe you're away at work and you have kids running around the house and they are trying to get their grubby little fingers inside the safe. If they're pressing buttons and everything, you will be notified. And then another really cool one, there is a bump and impact alert. That way, if someone runs into this thing or they're trying to unbolt it from the floor, you're going to get alerts almost immediately. This is something that you can actually change the sensitivity to. I right now have mine set very low because I'm obviously moving this thing around while shooting this video. But if you have that sensitivity set pretty high, if someone comes up and gives the safe a nice bump, you're gonna get alerted, and that's another really cool feature. Now there's actually 2 more things that you can monitor with this Wi-Fi enabled safe. Right here next to the battery door, the program, and the light switch, there is actually not only a temperature but also a humidity sensor. Maybe you're keeping this safe in a garage or somewhere where there are really harsh environments. You can actually set different thresholds for both temperature and humidity to get alerted when those thresholds are crossed. Maybe you live in southern Florida and you left for an extended amount of time and the humidity is getting very high inside the safe. You can get an alert for that. That way you can check on your possessions and make sure that nothing is rusting or going wrong. Or maybe you have the safe mounted out in a garage and for some reason it is extremely hot out there. Maybe something caught on fire. You can set a temperature threshold to give you an alert when that temperature gets too high inside the safe. So with this Wi-Fi app, it's basically like you can be there monitoring your safe no matter where you are in the world. I personally think it's pretty cool. So now for the final thing, what I want to do is actually answer some common questions, concerns, and go over the pros and cons of a safe like this, stemming from an actual Instagram post of this exact safe. There are quite a few comments on here that make me raise my eyebrows, so let's go through them. Someone says, yeah, that sounds safe. Let's hook this gun safe up to the internet where the government has control. So again, like I mentioned, the Wi-Fi is just giving you more security. It's allowing you to monitor this safe from wherever you are at. Could someone hack into it? Sure. You may be able to find out different things about this safe by finding it through hacking on the internet, but the reality of it is you're not going to be able to do anything with that information. You cannot lock someone out of the safe, or you cannot gain access to this because the Wi-Fi does not control the actual locking mechanism. Someone says, looks like an ATM. That could be a pro or con, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I personally think that the crinkle finish on here and everything about this safe is pretty modern. Aesthetically, I really like the way this thing looks, and I think it could fit into almost any environment. Here's another good one. A lot of people will look at this one as a con, but someone says, I can't wait to see how much this thing costs. Right now on their website, the RS500i, Wi-Fi enabled with the biometrics, this exact package with the accessories that I mentioned, this thing is coming in at $1,250, and that is without any discounts. So full retail on this thing is $1,250, which is a lot. There are already people running to the comments section right now going,
oh my god, that is so expensive, I could buy a full-blown gun safe for that.
If that is you and you are in that boat, then this safe is very obviously not for you. You're probably in the same crowd of people who go, the government can control the safe because it's connected to Wi-Fi. So I will agree that something like this may not be as safe as a dedicated, really big, robust gun safe, something that you can't move around. It's going to be hard to drill, tap into. However, this thing is really not designed for that. This is a quick access, almost like a Go locker. I have my fair share of large gun safes, and I can tell you that this is very easily the fastest gun safe to get into as far as rifle safes go. I can honestly do it without looking. I will simply reach over here, scan my thumb, and there we go. I'm into the safe. Those bigger, more expensive gun safes may provide more protection, like for fire and stuff like that, but again, that's not what this is designed for. This thing is small and light enough that you could carry it upstairs to the second floor of your house and bolt it to the floor or up against the wall inside your closet. You have a ton of functionality packed into this thing, and some of the features may be something that you benefit from. Again, this safe, and especially that price tag, is not for everyone, but it is what it is. Some people might find value in it. So I guess that covers most of the pros and cons and any questions that people have been asking. There's a lot of repeats in there, so if you guys have any more questions, something that may add value to this video, let me know in the comments down below and I'll try to answer anything as best as possible. Again, just like all of my reviews, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just bringing you some entertainment and informative content. Hopefully you guys drew some value from this, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on the video. If you are new here, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every single week, and I believe that's going to be all for today. So, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.